Welcome to Evolution on the Mic. I am your host, Ariana de la Cruz,
And I'm your co-host, Antoine Dove.
and we are back, season 3, The Journey to Success, episode 6, bonus content. In our last episode, we sat down with Alicia Sanchez and discussed her journey to success. We spoke about understanding who you are and the power of faith in our walk with God when we are leaning into our purpose and who God designed us to be. But today, episode 6, we will be reviewing bonus content that we filmed in our interviews with our amazing conversations with Dr. Leslie Davis and Alicia Sanchez. Yes, you heard it correct. There was so much juicy information, conversation that we had that we couldn't pack it all in just those episodes that we aired. So we wanted to make sure that everything that we spoke about was fully submerged to you guys so you guys can hear, so you guys can, infiltrate this in your being, in your subconscious, in your heart, because these two conversations that we have made sure to air to you guys that wasn't aired in our previous conversations that we showed with Alicia and Dr. Leslie has, completely, like, just in rehearing it earlier this week, it touched me. It touched me all over again. It touched me as if I wasn't there in the room having that conversation. It touched me like a completely outsider. And just these like 10 to 15-minute snippets of conversation that we had with Alicia and Dr. Leslie. So we want to make sure that we gave this information to you and that nothing was left out. Okay, so like every second, everything, every conversation, every nugget of faith, of obedience, of sacrifice, of following God, of following your purpose, of knowing who you are, whose you are. I mean, in these two snippet of conversations, I hope that you can, get a lot from it. But before we get to all that, Antoine, it's been a while. It's been a while since we do our check-in. So I'm sure the viewers are like, they've been just going in these conversations. It's great and all they have these guests, but I wonder how they've been doing. What's going on with them? How's life lately? And yeah, Antoine, how are you doing? What's been going on?
Yeah, no. Life is blessed, and I am going to continue to use that word no matter what I'm going through in life. Is to say life is blessed. I believe what we say, we manifest, and what we believe in our hearts, we
Mm.
manifest, and what we have faith in, we bring forward. And I am blessed. I'm a child of God. I am blessed, and God is doing some amazing things in my life. And I've all of it has different pivots and turns and changes, and things don't always go like we may have planned them to go, but God always provides. And that has been a lesson this season that I've continued to experience as God continued to be a provider for me and serving in such major ways with the folks that are around me. So kind of where I'm at right now, I am actually helping some people that are close to me with different business ventures that they're looking into. So one of them, they're my friends, and they have a email and SMS marketing company. They were looking for some operational support. So for those that don't know, my background is in operations, and I've worked with an e-commerce brand that we scaled to 8 figures, and then we had an exit. And so I have a lot of experience in working with e-commerce brands and building those brands from an operation supply chain perspective and all the other things that goes with building a team. And so they've already laid a lot of the foundation, but they just wanted someone to come in and tweak some of the processes and continue to work with their teams and build stuff up. So I'm helping them with that project. And then on the real estate side, I've actually started to build my messaging around what real estate means to me and why I'm in real estate. And so a lot of that's centered around the first time home buyer. I really want to support first time home buyers. I really want to be an advocate for first time home buyers. I want to be, when you think of first time home buying in North Carolina, I want you to think of me. And so I've actually have a mentor that I've linked up with, and we have this kind of almost exchange where she's helping me with understanding how to navigate the real estate landscape here in North Carolina and working with first time home buyers. And I'm also helping her to put in place some processes and systems to help her grow her team, because her long-term goal is she wants to be able to grow her team and expand her team. And right now she's a solo realtor and she's been doing it for 20 plus years. but she's looking for the systems. And so I'm helping her with systems. And so I say all that to say that God will use the tools, the knowledge that we have in ways to help others. And in exchange, he will always provide for you in those situations. And so that's what he's been doing. And so I'm just grateful. I'm truly blessed. Every situation that I have is an opportunity for me to continue to give God the glory. And I'm thankful for that. So that's where I'm at, Adi. And so
Awesome.
how
No,
are things with you?
no, I mean, I
What's
just want to
going
say
on in
that
your
I'm
world?
proud of you. I just want to say I'm proud of
Thank
you.
you.
And
Thank
that is
you.
awesome. I know that when you lean into what your strengths are and you lean into God, I know that everything that you touch is going to thrive. So I'm excited for
Mm,
you. I'm excited for the people that have provided you with this opportunity to see the growth that they're going to have in their business with, with your hand in it, right? Because you do everything with love. You do everything with
yeah.
passion, and you don't do things just to do them, right? Which is why you're here. You haven't, taken the easy route, ran to back to a 9 to 5 and do what the normal do, right? You're going
Yeah.
against the grain, like we talked about with Dr. Leslie in our conversation with her. And I'm just so excited to see the fruits of all of this that you're putting into Antoine. Like genuinely and
Thank you.
truly, like your grind, your faith, your walk with God, your, like really leaning into him being your provider, him being your leader, him being everything. It's an honor to see that, to just see your heart in
Mm,
everything that you've been doing and staying the course. So I just want to say that, you
yeah.
know what I mean? I know everything that you're
Appreciate that.
doing is going to work out 100% in your favor because you're doing it with God in your corner, you know?
Oh,
So
thank you.
with
Thank
me,
you.
no, you're very welcome. With me, what's been going on? I mean, kind of like what you're saying, like just trusting God and trusting the process and knowing that He's going to provide, that He is going to provide me with the things that I need to grow the things that He has called me to grow. I'm in a place right now in my businesses where I've noticed that I have kind of been, what's that word when they say like you've been running thin? That word that like you've been like when you're into
Like
everything too
running.
much. What's that
Oh,
saying?
like you're running on. Oh, like running on fumes. You just running thin,
Like
meaning you don't have enough
I'm
support.
stretched out too
Stretching
thin.
yourself too
That's the
thin.
saying.
Oh
I'm
yeah, yeah.
stretching my,
Stretching yourself thin.
there we go. I'm stretching I've noticed that I've been stretching myself too thin and having, multiple businesses and being the one that's doing everything, which is okay in the beginning. Like that's where you start, right? Like you have to start and learning your processes, mastering it, and then creating system and processes, and then passing down in, task and delegating and things like that. So I've just been kind of feeling like I'm being stressed out too thin with myself because I have my funding company, and that, like, with the systems, the process, the ads, I'm still cultivating to master that process. I honestly have not. But the reason why, in speaking to my coaches, my amazing coaches that I work with in the marketing agency that I'm in, is that me focusing and doing the work, not all the work, but doing, half of the work when it comes to my inquiry removal services that I provide. I spend a lot of time and hours every day taking sales calls. I'm taking the sales calls, I'm reviewing credit reports, and I'm collecting payment. And then from there, right, I'm very blessed to have someone process all my files for me, which I at one point I was doing. So I was able to get half of that off my plate. And now it's like I have to get everything off my plate, even the sales calls. Like that process, that department, like that job in itself, needs to be offboarded from me and onboarded onto someone else. And I'm very grateful for the mentors that I've invested in, that are in my corner, that I've asked, to push me to be, a great entrepreneur, business owner, and leader, to build this empire that I'm building, because they have taken my ask and have been pushing me. So like I have a
Mm,
deadline now of 2 months where I am to not have any physical labor in that inquiry removal process, so that I can have all the time and space and energy and creativity to pour into my funding company. Because I've been like, why is this not really growing as much? Like there's other people in the group that are further along, like why not me? And after having an honest conversation with myself and my mentors, that was the analysis. Like this is why,
mm,
you're spending X amount of hours on these calls, you know so now it's just kind of creating systems and processes to get that offboarded and onto, the person that is doing everything else for me with the processing, and just, in training mode, in creating processes mode, and truly feeling like a real business owner and leader and all of those things. And it's just, that's what it takes. You have to hire, you have to create systems, and you have to lean into God and knowing that he's there with you in the journey, that, I'm going to pick the right person, and I trust myself to know that I can trust a person that is going to be helping me take things on. Um, but yeah, letting go of that control in your business is tough, because it's my baby, so I think a part
Mhm.
of me, it like wants to let it go, but a part of me is like loving the in some shape or form, loving the chaos, but it's not going well for me and staying in that. So I had to pivot, and now I'm on a timeline, deadline, more structured process for me now to just focus on my funding company. So that's where I'm at. In the stage, kind of like where the people that you're helping with, they're at, like they need systems and hiring and all of that.
Mhm.
Um, that's what's going on with me, but it's all good. I know that it's all working out for the greater good for everyone involved. So I'm just excited. I love that I can ask somebody to help me, and that I can take that help and execute, you know
Yeah.
I try not to stay stubborn. I try not to just be like, well, I don't want to do that, that's scary, and stay there. Like, it is scary, but I know that if God put these people in my path to guide me, I have to listen. I have to at least try and see where it goes, you know?
Mhm.
So
I love that.
that's that's where I'm
I'm
at.
really I'm really enjoying your journey along the way, because I think you are showcasing all of the different challenges that comes forward when you're starting your own business, or even when you're pursuing something that's really hard. Like, you have these different points at which you have to really fall back and trust God. And I know that sounds easy. And I know for those that might be listening, it's like, oh, you guys always talk about trusting God. Like, that just seems like it's so easy. It's easier said than done. And you're right. It is easier said than done. The beauty, though, is when you do it and you see the fruits of you doing it, and you see the results from doing it, that becomes the inspiration. And for me, everything I went through in my previous season, and all the things that happened to me, were all times for me to improve my faith, but also for God to show me what I'm truly capable of with Him. Whenever I think, oh, like, I don't have enough coming in this month, I don't know if I'm going to make it, like, it still blows my mind that I'm still kind of finding my way and navigating things, even though I don't have a 9 to 5, whenever I have operated in a 9 to 5 for so long. And yes, is it all perfect? No, it's not. But the faith that comes is where I pray and ask God to give me the resources I need, and He delivers. And so what I heard from what you were saying, Ariana, is that you were just in a place and you was like, I don't know why this isn't working. And God had already aligned you with the people in your life that could give you the answers that you needed. All that took down was for you to trust the process, which you've done, and you're going to continue to do. And that is why you continue to thrive, and why you continue to move forward in what you do. And I love it. I'm here for it. I got my popcorn. I'm watching everything that's going on in your life right now, because it's beautiful to see your journey. Like, I'd seen you from working a 9 to 5 to being this I would call it serial entrepreneur, because you have multiple businesses that you're running, and it's just incredible. So I tip my hat to you, and just continue to just be in awe at everything that you're continuing to accomplish.
Mm, thank you. And that segues me into like this conversation, this beautiful, juicy, God-filled conversation that we had with Dr. Leslie Davis, that was our bonus content of that information conversation that we had with her, that wasn't previously um um released. And
Right.
I'm just so honored and feel so good about releasing this like 15-minute or so conversation, because when I reheard it, it rewarmed my heart, right? It revigorated me in my obedience with God, in my sacrificial walk, with God. And it's like, am I sacrificing enough? Right. So I like what else can I sacrifice? Um, can I be doing more? I want to do more, God. Like, reinvigorated my faith, my desire to want to give back to God and to myself and to others, and the level of sacrifice that it takes. So in this conversation, you guys are going to get, Dr. Leslie's, sacrifice that she's making every day in her journey and in her purpose that God has called her to do. You're going to hear about her ability to be obedient in what God has called her to do. And you're going to hear her talking about honoring herself, honoring God, and honoring others, the people that came before her that has brought her to this place where she's in and the opportunities that she now has. So here you go. Check it out. I'm so excited for you guys to hear it.
The real estate journey, and this is coming from me as a real estate agent. I mean, there's a lot of nuances to it.
Mhm.
And I think one of the biggest things I heard in what you were just saying is that we have to do things on God's timing. And it really goes with the theme of what we've been talking about so far about obedience and what happens when we aren't obedient and how God will course direct us. But in your experience, there's a bit of you paying homage to these amazing pillars that came before you. And that experience of paying homage to them is centered around the fact that they created something like a lifestyle. They've created a fire that you want to keep burning.
Absolutely.
And that homage that you're paying back to them is what has made your journey to success so significant to you. Because it's not, and you had mentioned this in part one when we talked about this. You had mentioned that what God is calling me to do is not just about me, it's about others. And I think in that others, what I'm hearing you say is that your ancestral lineage, your grandparents who have, during a time, in Farmville, Virginia, where it was probably tough for a Black couple to try to do their thing, they did the dang thing, like they built the empire.
They built the
That, they
empire.
built the empire.
They had rental proproperties, 2 funeral homes, a beauty salon.
Let me find out. Let's
And
go.
and one thing I have to say is growing up, I watched my grandparents give back to the community. I watched them help those that were in need. And, I always say, my heart is similar to my grandfather's heart because he always gravitated to like people in the community that people would not talk to or would just toss away to the side. And I also think that my mom's experiences through life, like it just gives me an extra compassion for those that people think are less than. But a lot of people can acquire wealth and security and can be famous or popular, but God can bless us with all these things, but what are we doing to help others? And so each day I'm like, all right, what I have is not even mine, it's really God's, right? So how can God get the glory? And I can wholeheartedly say, growing up, seeing my grandparents, what they acquired, of course, through the strength of God, right? They gave back. They gave back. They had a heart for people. And, I'm trying to continue the legacy.
I love it. And Ariana, I see you spot. I can see the wheels turning over there. I know you got something brewing.
No, I was just thinking like, wow, everything that like, I just love that, we invited Dr. Leslie here because everything that she's saying is so embodying everything that we're trying to get through in this podcast. And I'm just hoping that, and I'm sure that the viewers that are watching are seeing that how important it is to have faith in God, to have faith in yourself, and to have faith in others, right? Because that is our tagline. And I'm just hearing everything she's saying, and I'm just like, wow, this is just what life is when you're leaning into God, right? When you have faith in Him, things don't make sense and you're just doing it because you're doing it for Him. You're trying to, have faith in other people, dealing with contractors, you're having tenants, your, relationships, and you're, doing your best to just trust that other people are going to do the right things. And I see you doing that. I see you having faith in God, but most importantly, I see you having faith in yourself. I see you believing in yourself because this is not easy. Like she said, overnight she became a real estate. Overnight she became a landlord. And I was in property management for 8 years, and I know what it's like, for landlords and to have tenants and all the things that happen with apartments, mold, ACs breaking down out of nowhere, all the costs that are related to and the legalities that comes with being a landlord. Like, it's really no joke. So I just hope everybody understands that it's not like, some people prepare for this, or they, dreamed or aspire, hey, one day I'm gonna be a landlord. But this is like, maybe I kind of thought that maybe my grandma was gonna leave me the properties, but when it happens, it's like like getting pregnant. Like, sometimes you, even if you prepare, you're still not ready for it when it happens. But you've been doing amazing. You know what I mean? You've been doing the damn thing, girl, with everything that you have going on. And, I was there, really from day one in your journey, when you started and you had all these questions and things that were going on in your apartments. And we would talk about it with my, experience in property management. But you rose above every single issue that came, every single thing. Ariana, the AC went out. I'm doing this renovation and I don't really know which one to get, like which AC, this one or that one. What do you think? And I just seen you grinding, figuring it out, trusting God. And I remember the stories you will tell me about your family. Like, girl, sell one of the properties or two so you can have some money. Stop putting money into these properties. They're in rural areas. Like, they're basically like, that's it. Get rid of them, And I just see you to this day still putting up a fight. Like, no, I am going to do this until the wheels fall off. I am going to give it my best 100% effort. But I don't see you doing it for yourself, because I'm sure for yourself, you would do what everybody else is doing. But you went against the grain, like you said. Like, that's one of the traits that you honor in yourself is, I'm going to go against what everybody else is telling me to do, what everybody else would do. And I'm going to do exactly what God is telling me to do, because this is for him. These properties came through him, through your grandparents, and you're honoring that. You're honoring God. I am just so like excited to see your future and like everything else that God is going to bless you with, because you have been an amazing, strong force in God and in yourself, and to continue this journey. Because trust me, I'm sure a lot of people watching would have been like, girl, I'm throwing in the towel. How many properties I got? I got like 6. All right. So I'm going to sell like 3, maybe 2. I'm going to get some money, quick money. I'm going to get myself a house. I'm going to get me a new car. And that's what I'm going to do. But you're like, I am still driving the car I've been driving. I am still.
Honda Civic.
Okay, Honda Civic. Okay. Not a Mercedes or something else. Okay. You're also like, I am still renting, not even an owner, but I'm a landlord. All these things so many people would have selfishly did and try to get the gain for themselves. But you have been so honoring like what your grandparents did and honoring God. And you know what I mean? You haven't thrown in the towel, and I'm sure you're not. And I know there's so many beautiful things are going to happen, because I'm telling you, when we sacrifice, God loves that. I've always said that, like, through sacrifices, everything that like God has been blessing with is because I've made sacrifices.
Right.
It's easy to go out and do the things that we want to do out that our flesh wants to do. It's easy. Like you were saying before about lust, like it's easy to just give into that. Anybody could do it. But how hard it is when you're sacrificing and you're saying, for this season, no more, not doing this, or I'm not doing that. And God sees you like, wow, the norm would have taken advantage and done this and done that, but you didn't. And he honors that and he blesses that, and you're going to be blessed. And I'm so excited to see that unfold. Like, I am being so real, because, you saying these stories and Antoine like bringing it up on our real estate, it just kind of brought me back to everything that we've been talking about. And it's been a year now since I've known you, right? And I'm just like, wow, she is still holding on tight. She is still grinding. She's still sacrificing. And I know that that's going to come with so many beautiful things,
As you're talking and you're making me think about like the journey and the mentorship, I mean, I have to shout out my cousin Dougie. Doug Depp, he has a real estate investment mentorship. He's a serial entrepreneur. I'm just so grateful for the level of access that I have had to him, because I've like picked his brain, like, listen, cause I don't know about this. Does this make sense? Does this not make sense? And so I think also with being obedient to God, it is also important to know what supports God has placed in your life, and allowing yourself to be vulnerable and knowing like when you need to reach out for assistance and help. And so that mentorship, I think that kind of like sparked a lot of like drive and stirred up some things in all of us in that mentorship. But I do have to shout out Dougie, And I mean, if you all Google him, Doug, that his level of sacrifice, that's just, I mean, he's gonna go get it.
Yeah, Doug slept in his garage for what was it, 3 years? And he slept in this insulated like bag because it was like where he lived at in Philly, is, winter is really, really cold. And he's basically rented out. It was a 4-bedroom house. He owned it, but he wanted to be a real estate investor. So he rented out all rooms in the house and basically slept for 3 years grinding, making like saving his money. And he slept in the garage with no insulation. He literally slept like zippered up in this like bag that to stay warm. That is the level of sacrifice that we're talking about here, y'all. Like, it is no joke. People be like, I'm going through it and I'm sacrificing, nothing's happening. But it's like, are you really? Are you really sacrificing? Like, are you giving it all that you really can? And some people think, and then it's like, then you hear stories and it's like, damn, I'm really not doing much. Like,
And
there's more that you can give.
I remember, I'm gonna say it went viral throughout like the family, what he was doing. And even my grandma was like, he's smart, but I'm a little worried about him. And so everyone was kind of like, what does Dougie have going on? And that goes back to even like part one, when we were talking like everybody's not gonna get it. During that moment, a lot of people did not get Dougie. They did not understand it, but they understand now because I mean, he buying blocks and stuff. So, I mean, and it just goes to show that, when you put in the work, you make the sacrifice. And I have to mention he is a man of God, right? And he trusts God and he's faithful to God. He shows that throughout. He always mentions God and his relationship with God. Look how God will bless you, right? And you're right, Ariana, like his level of sacrifice, I'm getting there. One day, I don't know about a sleeping bag.
Yeah, I mean, I think God calls us to do different things, and that's what God called, Doug to do. I don't think God calls us all to sacrifice in the same way and the same things in the
Great
same
point.
level. Yeah, I think that he knows what we can handle. He knew that Doug can handle that,
Mhm.
And I think that that's why if that's not something God is not calling you to do that, girl, but trust me, if right now God were to call you to sleep in somebody's garage, not even your own, with
I
me
would thug it
knowing
out.
you, with me knowing you, you're gonna thug it out with your new puppy and everything. With Charm, we're gonna be cuddling up with Charm because Charm is warm. He's furry, right? So
I would thug it out.
you will thug it out. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if God calls you to do something, it's because he knows that you are capable. And some people don't believe that. Some people think God called me to do that, but I'm not strong enough, God. My faith is not that great for me to do that. That's just not for me. But it's like once you put in the work and you try, you're like, I can do this. Oh, shoot. It's not that hard.
Right.
Okay, I got this. And over time, it becomes like second nature. You know what I mean? Like Doug stayed in that garage for 3 years. Like if he couldn't thug it out, it would have been a couple months and it would be like, I'm done. But I'm sure over time, it just became routine, normality, because his dream was bigger than the pain he was maybe feeling in the moment. Like he was living so in that dream and that wonderful feeling of how that life that he was trying to manifest was going to be. He was living in that. So he was living in that joy while
Mhm.
in the present he was maybe going through some things. But that's how God wants us to view what we're doing for him. It's like the bigger picture and
Right.
live in that bigger picture, live in that dream, right? Like if it's here now, because then the things that we are sacrificing and that we're letting go and that we're having to do that maybe don't feel good, those things are going to be worth it in
Mhm.
our minds in the present, you know. So definitely thank you for sharing that. That was awesome, and I hope everybody got something out of that, because I'm sure everyone can see themselves through this story. I'm sure everyone is thinking like, what can I sacrifice? What is God calling me to sacrifice? And what have I been so afraid to not give him, to not do, to not let go of? What is it for me?
Mhm.
And if you just choose to let it go, God is going to bless you with something so much bigger that it will blow your mind. It will blow your mind and it will be worth it. Like you're saying, Doug is not buying blocks. Doug has, you know, a mentorship called the A&E. And, you know, we were all in that mentorship together. So we see the fruits of his labor. We see how many people are now investing in real estate, are doing their thing because of Doug's mentorship, you know? And another thing that Doug, you know, does, that you were saying, like, you know, he sacrifices, but he's also giving, right? He's giving of his time. He comes on once every twice a month on the A&E. Anybody can ask him any questions. Like, he doesn't hold back. Anything you want to know about him, any strategies, any connection that he has, like, he's
Very accessible.
very accessible, and he's willing to give you information and connect you with people that he's working with or has worked with. Like, it's very open, and it's like it's a good resource for us in the group. And I see that. And I'm like, these are just the traits and the patterns that I'm seeing in every successful person, right? The obedience, the, you know, just doing what God is calling you to do, the making the sacrifices, letting go, you know, just all those things, being
Not
giving.
not competing, being able to work together, being willing to share knowledge, right? So even being, you know, a woman of God, a man of God, like, we're supposed to go out. We're supposed to, you know, bring people closer to God. We're supposed to evangelize, you know, those sorts of things. And so, you know, we're talking about like those character traits, and, you know, God has entrusted Dougie with so many things, and you know, he's not selfish. Like, we all can eat, you know, that's his mentality. Like, he wants to see people do better. He wants to see people evolve and grow. And even with you all's podcast, you know, you're being transparent, you're being authentic, you're being vulnerable, because you want people to grow and evolve. And so you're giving us something that we need versus holding some of those gifts and character traits to yourselves. You're being good stewards.
Wow, you know, I'm with you on that. Going back and rewatching that, and I remember when we filmed all of that with Dr. Leslie, and the conversation was so, like, our conversation with Dr. Leslie was so easy. Like, I felt like the conversation could have went on for 2 hours or 3 hours because we were so aligned with each other in our thoughts and habits and practices. And the one thing in that episode that stood out to me so much was kind of like what you were saying, Ariana, which is just continuing to have that faith and then also understanding the power of sacrifice. And I remember you saying in that episode something along the lines of, like, you think that you're sacrificing, like, you sometimes like, oh, I'm sacrificing. You're like, but are you really sacrificing? Like, how much are you really sacrificing? I think sometimes in our mind, we think that what we're doing from a sacrifice standpoint is enough. And to me, it's not until you start to feel uncomfortable that, to me, I think that sacrifice starts to become real. When you start to have some fear creep in, because to me, the fear is the response to something that is unknown and scary, but the faith is the antidote. And I think God puts us in these situations, or we go through situations in life to strengthen our faith muscle. And that's exactly what Dr. Leslie did. Like, she was put into this scary situation where she automatically acquired all of these properties and not knowing anything. I mean, she is, you know, a psychotherapist. She has nothing to do with real estate. That is not her wheelhouse, although she has a history of it with her family. That's just not been something she's focused on. And God has placed all the resources around her to thrive and succeed, even from you, Ari, stepping in and being someone to share and impart into her life about what you know around rental properties. I mean, you're an expert in that industry. And then, you know, Doug Dept, which we all love Doug, right? Doug coming in and being a support and resource to her. So again, I just believe it's all about putting your faith in, stretching yourself to those limits, but being able to have the faith in knowing that God will always provide. And when you're at those points of feeling like you can go no longer, just keep the faith. Keep the faith. Keep the faith until the result comes through. It will come. It will
Yeah.
come.
Yeah, what crossed my mind when I was rewatching that bonus content with Dr. Leslie Davis was, yes, the fear is there, right? The fear is there with her kind of, you know, overnight landlord, right? And owning, multiple rental properties and having the full responsibilities of these rental properties in rural areas. You know what I mean? She has these properties, but they're like, they're not turnkey properties that are fully in good standing. Like a lot of her properties, like, in these areas where even to get a contractor to come out, she will tell me it's like 2 hours, an hour and a half away from the areas. So to even get somebody to come out to take care of certain issues that come up, it's like that's a stress in itself, right? So she's dealing with all these things, and I'm sure that this fear creeps in. And thinking about Doug Depth and his journey of his level of sacrifice of living in his garage for like 3 to 4 years in Philly, and the winters are cold as hell, and he's been able to, and he was just living in faith. It was like the faith was his warmth. Yes, he was living in that sleeping bag that was insulated and it kept him warm, but what kept him warm as well was his faith in his dream, right? And I wrote that down, like, when you have faith in your dream and you live in that dream, whatever you're going through in the moment that maybe hurts, and there's some sacrifices and there's fears and there's pain, it settles away. It settles in. It doesn't affect you as much because his passion to get what he wants, right? His desire, the feel good feelings that he has to get those things that he wants overweigh or outweigh.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Outweigh.
They outweigh the pains and the sacrifices and the fears that he's feeling. So I'm sure that in him going through the sacrifices of living in his garage, meanwhile he's in this 4-bedroom house that he owns, right? And doing that because of his dream of being a real estate investor. That was his dream. That was his goal. He wanted to get out of the rat race of the 9 to 5, of the spinning his wheels, working for someone else. He wanted to build his legacy. He wanted to build generational wealth for himself, his family, and the family to come after him. And that dream, I'm sure, kept him warm in those cold nights, right? In those fearful moments. I'm sure that kept him at ease. And just hearing that and like that clicking for me when I heard that, and it's like, wow, we all gonna have fears. We're all gonna need a sacrifice at some point. What level of sacrifice, that's something that you would need to lean into God, and he will tell you what he wants you to sacrifice. And his level of sacrifice for you might not be the level of sacrifice for somebody else. But whatever he's telling you to sacrifice is gonna be uncomfortable, right? But when we're doing that and we're working with God and we're working towards those things, having that faith is just all worthwhile, you know? Having faith in the dream is the biggest like takeaway out of everything there, because I think that breaks the barriers of the fears, of the sacrifices, of the pains, of the uncomfortability, of the unknown, of everything that comes when we're doing something new.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're still right on the money about that. And what was the other, and it was underlying in everything they were saying, but also taught really nicely in our conversation we had with Alicia, which is this concept of understanding who you are. And I remember Doug having, because we all were part of, Doug's mentorship, and that's how we all met. And I remember Doug talking about a time when he was with his girlfriend at the time. And he was visionary. I mean, Doug knew what he wanted. There was no wavering from that. He knew exactly who he was supposed to be, what he needed to be doing, and nothing was going to stop him from getting there. And I remember he said he was talking to his girlfriend at that one time, and he said to her, "Do you want to be rich or do you want to be poor?" And his girlfriend at the time looked at him and said, "I'm okay with being poor." And he knew immediately that that was something he needed to cut off and move on from. And it's not so much about the money in that kind of explanation that he gave to us. It wasn't about the money and like being rich. It's that he understood who God had called him to be. He understood what God had in store for his life. And to get there, he needed to make certain sacrifices. And he also needed to have clarity on who needed to be around him in order for him to achieve that. And certain people were not going to make the cut. And she didn't make the cut. And so when I was listening back to our content that we did with Alicia, in our interview with Alicia, her whole episode was all about that. It was all about understanding who you are. And she spent so much time talking about her journey to understanding who she was, from being this person who felt like she needed to post on Instagram all the time and be out there in the forefront and documenting every second of her life, to being someone who understood that that's not who I am. Yes, I'm a force for God, and that is who God has brought me for. I'm this powerful woman. I'm a mom. I'm all these beautiful things. But that is something that is between me and God and my relationship with him. Other people who are seeing this, they do not dictate who I am and who I'm to become. That's between God and I. And once she understood this power she had within herself, and she had that mirror moment that we talked about, it was incredible what came forward in her life. And so this piece of content that we pulled, that we're sharing with you guys, this was one in which she shared with us something that came from her being who she was, leaning into who she was. And she talks a lot about how she always was someone that just jumped. She didn't believe in trying to have every single piece figured out. And I think, Ariana, you had even mentioned this, like, and you said it to me before when we first started working together, like, jump first, figure it out later, right? And that was a phrase that she coined, and you guys shared together. And what I loved about that was she put that into practice. And she, in this next snippet that we're going to share with you, she shows how she took that approach of jump first and figure it out later, and what it led to in her life. So take a look at this, and hope you guys enjoy this as much as we did.
And I'm going to tell you real quick, recently that I just jumped off of the ledge, and I didn't know if I was going to get this opportunity or not, but I did it. And then I realized back, I'm like, wow, girl, you just be jumping. It was on March 20 something. I saw a craft, un anuncio of, oh my God, I don't know why I can't talk English today. Like an ad, not an ad, like just something about crafters. Then they needed crafters to come up with an idea for Disney and Lego. I was like, that would be so cute. That'd be cool. So I just sent my submission. I sent my stuff because I teach like rug tufting and all this stuff. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to teach, show them my stuff. And I get a call back, and they're giving me more details about like what the opportunity is. And it's a commercial for Disney and Lego. And I was like, and it's out of the country in Uruguay. I was like, get cute. What? Okay, I'm going to do it, whatever. Set up my little phone. I'm like, I'm going to do it because why not? I did it. I didn't tell nobody, mind you, nobody, not nobody. And so I, like, for a week later, I get this thing, and they're like, we need to meet with you again with the producers. And I'm like, wait, what? And I realized that I am the only Afro-Latina. Wait. I am the only person of color, okay, on this whole thing. That was another sign, like, keep going, girl. Just go off the ledge. We'll figure it out. Because that's my attitude. I always like, do it and then figure it out later. That's just always been me in a sense. But now I'm a mom. I have a lot of different things, like work, like just a lot. So I'm like, just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. And ask the questions, right? Keep learning. And so, short story, they sent me the thing, and they're like, we want to book you to be one of the crafters, to come to Uruguay for a week and to do a commercial for Disney and Lego under Encanto.
Wow.
Are you serious? And the day before I got the email, I told my partner, and I was like, oh my, how about if I actually get chosen? And for a minute, I was doubting myself. I'm like, they're not gonna want a negrita. Like, this is crazy, right? After I jump, then I go and I'm like, they're not gonna want me. First of all, I'm not an actress. I just love crafting. Like, I'm just a big kid. And I got the email, and at first we were Googling, like, is this real? Like, this can't be real. Again, doubting, but I already went off the ledge. And a week later, I was in Uruguay shooting a commercial for Disney and Lego. I was there for a week, and I came back, and it was the most amazing experience. And one thing that and it was paid, because you know me, I'm on dollars. So I was like, what? Okay. And it just, a part of me said to myself, we could do hard things. Don't stop asking questions. Take a lot of risks. Have the people around you that will support this decision, that will be like, you got this, you did this, and the best experience. And that was just something from learning and never asking questions. And I would never think that I would be the only Afro-Latina on a commercial in Uruguay for Encanto, the actual, and Encanto, And listen, when I brought my Dominicanness to that country, those people, I had them dying of laughter. And even the producers were like, we picked you. And they said this to me because we saw through you and your crafting. We knew that this is actually embedded in you. And that was another sign. That was another sign that like being who you are is beautiful. And being who you are, I'm loud and I'm proud. I actually wrote that in my senior yearbook. I saw it the other day, like just being who you are. And that was going to be the third thing that I was going to say, just being who you are as a person and not being afraid. Like, yeah, I could be too much. I could be extra. I don't care anymore. Why? Because that's just me. So in September, you guys should, I'll send you the link. You'll probably see it.
Let's go. That's like mic drop. Man, you couldn't have crafted an example more better of showing how all of those things have matriculated to you becoming who you are and achieving the success that you see. And the one thing that continues to play in the back of my mind is, would, if you had not had that low moment where you looked in the mirror and redefined who you were, would you have had that same opportunity? Nothing happens by chance.
No.
Like, would they have seen that true authenticity? Would they have seen that interior part of you and say, hey, we can tell this runs through? Would they have seen that? Because you were still doing these things before.
Yeah. They wouldn't have seen that. Exactly. Because I wasn't being me. I was doing all these other things because I was adding these layers. But now I get to choose what I want to do and how I want to do it. And when people ask me, oye, muchacha, tú sí haces mucho. Like, oh my God, you do so much. I'm like, because I genuinely love to do it. You see me crafting, you see me doing this because that's my art. That is my therapy. I even tell my therapist that, like, when I sit at a sewing machine, when I'm teaching a rug top or anything, sandal, like I'm pouring my time. Like, I love it. I genuinely love it. When I'm listening to my music, my merengue loud, whatever, I love, that's my culture. I'm obsessed with it. I love that. So it's not that I'm doing extra now like I used to because I was just doing too much. No, now it's because I genuinely love it, you know? And so I think that mirror moment, we have them a lot, but we ignore them. We ignore them. And I want everybody listening today, go to the mirror after. Just go and look at yourself. Just go look at yourself. And if you need a reminder to really look at yourself, take a sticky note or take some lipstick, some red lipstick, and put it on there. Do you see you? Just look at yourself. Every single day, read that. Do you see you? Or who is and then your name? Because that's important. Because just like Ariana said, like, you don't want to sit by yourself, but you don't want to sit alone. People don't want to look at themselves in the mirror. They might see, oh, I have this, I have a pimple, but that's not what we're looking at. So I think we have those opportunities, Antoine, but we ignore them. Even now, sometimes I have them, like, as a mom, like, how do you want to teach Cielo that? Like, how is she going to perceive that? Like, let her be her own self, because these kids, they are their own selves. They made them different. I'm an 80s baby. It's different.
Yeah, they different. I got a 7-year-old. I know what you mean.
They are different. So then I have to go back and I'm like, okay. And I have to look at myself and I'm like, okay, let her express herself, because I don't want to make her feel like she can be who she is, So, yeah.
Yeah, well, first, Alicia, I definitely want to say, wow, I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. And major congratulations on that opportunity, on executing that, on saying yes and figuring it out later. That is a quote that Alicia had always told me, because I would be like, well, I got to get this figured out. What am I going to do and how am I going to do it before I said yes? And she will always tell me, say yes now, figure it out later. And I promise you now, I have people coming to me telling me, how do you just throw yourself and do things and you don't even know, you just figure it out. And I'm like, and now I'm thinking like, oh shoot, Alicia embedded that in me, because that's truly who you always been. You know what I mean? It wasn't until you saw yourself and you became the person that you needed to become that things started actually like really blooming and blossoming and working. And, you had maybe peace and more focus while you were doing certain things afterwards, but you always had that in you. Like, I'm jumping off the ledge, I'm saying yes, and I figure out the details later. And I've seen you in that over and over again in every situation. So I just want to say this, that certain things people say, well, that's not innate in me. I wasn't born with that. I don't have that. I can never be like that. And I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of things in life is a skill. And just because you see the next person doing it and jumping and saying yes, figuring it out later, that's not always the case in their life. People, that's a skill that you can actually cultivate, but it comes with faith. Because when I jump now and I say yes and I figure it out later, that is my faith saying
Yes.
yes. And I'm going to figure it out later. God is going to figure it out later with me.
Yep.
That is comes from me with faith, but it also came with practice. It came with the seed that you planted in me, but it also came with me taking the jump myself and having then faith with God that I'm going to figure it out. And it always has. It always has. It always has. And my muscle in that has now built. So I don't want the next person or anybody listening like, well, that's not me, Ari. Like, that's you and Alicia and Antoine. Maybe you guys can jump and figure it out later, but I just absolutely can't. That's a lie you're telling yourself, because let me tell you something right now. It is a skill. It is something that you put into practice, scared at hell, because you're going to be scared saying yes, like, because all these question marks are going to come in your head of how. But man, listen, God is amazing. And he will put peace in your heart. He will put ideas in your heart. If you think you're not creative, the creative thoughts will come, because I can tell you right now, like, I am a testimony 100%, especially even with this podcast. I never thought I was creative. Alicia, you know that. I'm not creative like you. I'm not this, I'm not that, you know, but I can honestly say, like, you know, a lot of the things and the concepts and the just trajectory of where this podcast has gone from episode 1 to where we're at today has all been creativity, you know, that has cultivated through me. But I can honestly say it has been God giving me the messages. This is what you're going to do next. This is what you're going to do next. And me and Antoine having conversations. And he's like, yeah, God's been telling me this too. And then he's like, yeah, this is what I think. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. I feel it. I feel it. And every single time is goosebumps, everything that we're doing here. But, you know, some people might be like, well, to create content, to have a podcast, to run a business, to be an entrepreneur, you have to be creative. And some people are like, well, I'm not a creator. I'm not creative. I can never be a business person. And I want to say to anybody that's thinking that is, God is the ultimate content creator. He's the ultimate creative, you know, energy in the universe. And we are in him. He is in us. Everything he is, we are. Everything we are, he is. So I am creative. I can take leaps and figure it out later, because it's not just me, the human self, doing that and walking in that. It is God with me, walking through me, telling me, speaking to me. But I have to be in connection with him in order for me to hear, feel, and do. You have to, you know? So
and words are powerful. So if you're telling yourself you are not something, you will begin to believe it. So that's why it's important, like I said, about putting that sticky, like, even if you need that extra convincing, like, just put it around you. Create these habits where you're like, I am creative. Oh yeah, I saw that, like that. Add things to help you. Ask questions, keep learning so that you can fuel that creativity out of you. Yeah.
wow, the power of taking a leap of faith now, saying yes to opportunities now and figuring it out later. Alicia Sanchez has done that marvelously in this you know, conversation that we had with her, and her telling us, you know, the opportunity that she's seen in a commercial, right? She's seen this opportunity in a commercial. She was like, oh, I can do that. Why not? Like, say yes, figure it out later. I don't know what this really is about, but that's something I can do. And then she didn't tell nobody about it, because like, is this really real? Maybe not, might not happen. And then she goes off and, you know, submits you know, what she needed to for the commercial, and got called. And a week later, she was in Uruguay filming a commercial for Encanto and Disney. And I'm just like, got goosebumps right now thinking about it all over again, because it's like, wow, the power of knowing whose you are, knowing who you are, the power of faith, the power of blind faith, of just saying, yes, I'm going to do this. This is something that feels right in my soul. I can do this, even though you're like, well, maybe not, but you have that intuition and it tells you, girl, just do it. And then you do it. And then you figure out all the pieces later, and then everything works out in your favor, and it works out beautifully. And that was just a beautiful example that Alicia has showcased for us. And, you know, I hope everybody that watched that, like, got motivated and invigorated and excited and empowered and inspired and motivated. Like, y'all, we don't have to have everything figured out. You know, it just starts with looking in the mirror, right? Something that we spoke about, like Antoine said, early on in our episodes, and it warms me and it does bring me to tears, because it's like, you know, me and Antoine started this podcast and we started talking about these things that God was telling us to talk about, right? Understanding who you are and whose you are, and mirror work, and meditating and praying and leaning into God and hearing his voice, and omens, and, you know, things that you don't understand, but God is going to do his best to communicate through you if you keep your pipeline clean and hear him. And it's like Alicia beautifully showcased all of those things that we've been trying to convey and explaining, and, you know, through our stories. But now you guys got to see that through someone else's story, and so beautifully played out. Her commercial, I believe she said, should come out in September of this year.
Yeah.
And
September this year.
yeah, so we're gonna be seeing that Alicia Sanchez on the big screen in a commercial for Disney and
That's so
Encanto.
cool.
Like, I love Encanto's movie. I've seen that movie like 3 times, you know, with my goddaughters. Like, I love that movie. And I'm just like so in awe. And I'm so proud of you, Alicia, if you're watching, you know, like, I love you so much, and I'm just so grateful for you and for your path, you know, for yourself and your family and everything that you're building. I know that God has some more amazing things for you, and for helping me get here. You know, I'll always be indebted to you, and grateful to you. And, you know, just always thank God that he connected us, because, girl, when you found me, I was a hot mess. And I was a hot mess trying to get out the hood. Nah, and and you know, you definitely helped me. And like, look at everything that you're doing now, just by, you know, always being, you know, a student, always wanting, being open to learning and asking questions and being resourceful and saying yes and figure it out later, just because you always had God in you. You always had that faith, and you knew that God was not going to steer you wrong, you know. And it all started with you taking that look in yourself, seeing who you were. And I know that anybody watching can have similar experience, you know, by just taking a look at yourself, looking into your beautiful soul and through your eyes, and seeing everything that you are inside, because everything that God is, you are. Everything that God is, the grandest that God is, the omnipresent that he is, the abundance that he is, the beauty, the magic, the love that he is, you know, you are. And once you see that and you recognize that, you're going to be your most authentic self. You're not going to compare yourself to the next person. You're going to stay in your lane. You're going to vibe to the beat of your own drums, and you are not going to care what other people are thinking, saying, assuming. You're not, because you are so confident in you and in God, and leaning into that. And just like Antoine said with Doug Depp and his girlfriend, he was with that girl, like, I think he said 3 years. So he was in a long-term relationship. It wasn't like this was a fling that he was like, hey, you with it? You want to be rich or you want to be comfortable? Which one? This was somebody that he was committed with for years. But man, he had this bigger vision of himself and his life. He was leaned into God so deep that it's like anything that doesn't feel of God gotta go. Anything that doesn't seem to be connected to my purpose gotta go. And he did that without second guessing. He gave her a 2-week notice, like a job, like, oh, you're not meeting expectations, you can't fit in this company no more. They give you a 2-week notice. He said in his story to us that he gave her a 2-week notice to get out of his home, and it was over, just like that. Like, you are no longer in alignment with me and where I'm going. Like, that's how focused he was, and that's how much faith he had, and that's how much he was leaning into God and in his faith. And just hearing all of this and everything that we've been talking about, and everything that we've been trying to teach, you know, we completely did our best to embody this. And I'm so grateful for having Dr. Leslie and Alicia on the show, and them really conveying these principles that we've been talking about.
Yeah, for sure. I think the big thing that stuck out for me in the Alicia part that we just watched was how she talked about, they recognized, they being the producers, selected her because they said, we could tell that you are passionate about this. We can tell that this is who you are. And so I think that's a very profound thing to recognize and call out, because I believe that when we know who we are, not only do we know it, but others see it too. They can recognize it and they feel it. And it creates, it feels safe. It feels beautiful. It feels love. It's because just like Ariana was saying, all the things that God is, we are. But you got to understand, God is not fake. God is real. God is pure. There's nothing about God that is not untrue. He is the truth. I am the way, the truth, and the light. Like that is who he is. And so when it's truth, it feels like God. It feels like love. It feels like compassion. It feels like all those beautiful things. And you don't even have to say it. Like if you've ever been in a room and someone's walked in a room and you can feel their presence, that's what it's like. And that was when Alicia was saying that, that's what I could see, was her walking into the room with the producers and them just feeling her presence. And they didn't have to think hard about their decision. They already knew before she even left Uruguay. They already knew that she was the one. That's it. They already knew God had already made the way. And I think for me, that was one of the biggest lessons that I also have to remember, is that I don't have to sell myself. I don't have to make myself seem as though you have to accept me for who I am, or you have to, like, almost in some ways make a pitch for why someone needs to either be associated with me, have a friendship with me, be close to me, any of that. Because if I'm living in my truth and if I'm living with who I am and I'm leaning into that and I know who I am, God will attract the people into my life. The people that are supposed to be in my life will be attracted to me and they will want to be around me. And I don't have to sell anything because they're just like, I just want to be in your presence. I just want to be around you. And it's not even like some like, oh, like you're everything. It's just, I love the energy that's around you. I love the love that irradiates off you. I love the joy and happiness that comes from you. It gives me, it feeds my soul. And that's the type of people I want to be around that do that for me as well. It's all symbiotic. It's all back and forth. So that was one of the things, Adi, that she had said that to me just really stuck out. And watching it again, I'm like, wow, man, what an experience. And hats off to you, Alicia. You are something incredible. You truly are. You are an incredible individual, truly.
Yep. Always has and always will be, 100%. So grateful for her. I just hope that everyone watching, like, really, like, if you need to watch those clips again, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 times, I say do it. Because I'm telling you, at everything that we've been talking about, 3 seasons and all these episodes later, these 2 clips really embody what we're really trying to show you guys. We may have more guest speakers like really touching on their journey to success and what that looks like and stuff like that. But so far, like I feel like we've hit it pretty much the head on the nail on the head. So it's a beautiful walk and experience that we've all been having. And I hope that everybody gets what we and Antoine got out of these last few episodes with our wonderful guest speakers, because it's just been completely revolutionary, honestly. Right, Antoine?
Oh, totally. I look forward to having more guest speakers like that in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. As usual, if you have any thoughts, comments, or anything that you would like to share, we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below. And with that, thank you for tuning in. And until our next episode, always remember that having faith in God, having faith in yourself, and having faith in others will create the evolution that you are seeking.